So, important parts. I've talked a little bit about things that have happened up to scenes 1 to 6. 7 to 11 is where the play ends instead of it's going through its um, sort of climax. Okay, so in these scenes, the important thing we need to pay attention to is the change. Now, remember I talked about the fact that the, the star of the play, we don't like Stella at all. She's arrogant, she's mean spirited, she says the wrong things, does the wrong things, but now she's changed. We don't understand her motivations. So this is where we start seeing things that are happening, right? First, we see that Stanley uh, is planning to, destroy is a good word. It's a strong word, but I like using this word. She's planning to destroy Blanche and her plans, right? Stanley has figured out, and he's found out all about her past. He's tracked down what she did when she was in Laurel. She's found out her history at the Flamingo Hotel. She's found out the situation with what she did in the school with the student. He found everything, and his plan is to basically destroy her. Now, he's not doing this out of the goodness of his heart because he cares about his sister or he wants to do something. A lot of this is really his revenge and also how it makes him look, right? He's not trying to out Blanche because he's necessarily trying to protect his sister or protect his wife or his friend. It's how would it look if people found out about her past and he went along with it. Right? He's not doing any of this stuff because he generally is trying to protect people. He's doing it because he wants to protect his own reputation, and he thinks that if people find out that Blanche had done all these things, it'll make him look bad, right? So he's got all this information. He kind of hints to her that he knows all this information, and it's the day of he's gonna have a birthday party, and Blanche is trying to get ready for seeing Stanley, seeing Mitch, because she thinks this is going to be it. That Mitch is going to eventually marry her. They're going to leave this little apartment building, and they'll have a life together. Okay, but Stanley hates all that. So what Stanley has done is that he's told Mitch about her entire history. Okay, so when he does that, then all of a sudden, oh my God, it ruins everything. Right? It's supposed to be a party, and Mitch doesn't show up. Right? Scene. It's a big scene where she's sitting there and they're having dinner, and again, Blanche is pretending that nothing's going wrong. He thinks just that she's going pretending that Mitch just stood her up, but that's okay because that never happened to her and it's not a big deal. And it's the scene that sort of illustrates what we've talked about. I've kind of mentioned it. Some of you guys have mentioned it in your assignments that when they're all having dinner and Stanley's eating chicken with his hands, they're greasy and they're dirty. Uh, and Blanche is just telling a story, and Stanley seems uninterested. And Stella looks at it and says, "Well, basically, um, Stanley, you act too much like a pig. Go wash your hands and clean up right now," which makes Stanley angry. Again, we see him using violence when he feels threatened. He smashes the plates and tells both women to be quiet. He says he's the king of the castle, and he's tired of the fact that Stella is sounding a lot more like Blanche. That's an important part. He identifies that they're talking too much, that she is saying and sounding a lot like her sister, which he doesn't like. So after the big blow up, after the big argument, after Blanche is tired, she's distraught, she doesn't know what to do, Johnny says, gives her a bus ticket and says, "It's time for you to go. Here's your birthday gift." And again, because uh, Blanche is struggling, she runs away crying. You'll also notice in the play that she has more and more of the polka music going off in her head. That signifies her slowly losing her mind. The louder the songs are, the longer it happens, the more times it happens, it means she's losing control of reality. So she freaks out, and Stanley and Stella have a big confrontation, which Stanley also tells us something very interesting. He tells us that Stella's really angry. She feels like, there have always been mean people to my sister. He didn't understand how special she was, how delicate she was. And Stanley also says something interesting. He admits and tells Stella that he knew that when Stella first arrived, she was just like her sister, just as with a sense of superiority, and he basically changed her. That his interference basically made her into the person that she is now. So, what does that mean? Does it mean violence? Does it mean sex? Does it mean, date rape? We don't know for sure, but we do know that Stanley has and will use violence to achieve his goals. So, when he's talking about that, we don't know what the relationship was like, but it probably was more volatile in the beginning. Okay? So, make some notes here. Any questions so far, guys, as I'm talking about this stuff? Okay, so he's trying to do that with Stella, and Stanley's just trying to use charm. Again, interesting enough, guys. Remember, what's her when she attempts? She's trying to be an alpha female. When she tries to control the people around her, what does she use?
Flirting.
Flirting, charm, being, all those things she uses to right to get people to like her, to get people to do what she wants. But it's not working here, right? Right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
because Stanley doesn't.
Sorry. Go ahead. Sorry. Hold on for a second, Ivor. Yes.
Oh, I said because Stanley didn't even care about her, like these, like acting like that.
Okay. Yeah. He doesn't really care about her. Charm means that she's trying to be. And Eric had a question: what does charm mean? Charm means that when someone's being charming, what they're attempting to do, they're trying to influence someone by being extremely likable. Right? There's something about them. They they present themselves in a way that's so favorable that you automatically agree with them. So charming can be a celebrity, right? It could be someone's smile. It could be how someone carries himself. It could be how someone has a conversation. It's a general idea that you're such a likable person by your behavior or your actions that people will do what you want. So she tries to use charm, right? It's the same thing as it's a way of flirting, right? So she's not being super sexual, but she's being trying to be funny, trying to get you to laugh. If you laugh, then maybe you'll listen to her, right? So when she tries to use charm, okay, I'm supposed on bracket doesn't work on Stanley. Now remember, guys, that Stanley has said since scene 2 that he knows when Blanche is attempting to mess with him. And he doesn't like it, and it makes him very angry because he says, "You think I'm stupid, but clearly I know when you are doing what you're doing just to get me to do what you want." So when she does that, it just makes him angrier, right? So another key thing here is that when that when Stella yells at Stanley for his for his table manners, Stanley gets very upset. Right? He gets upset. He gets angry. He gets quiet. He tells him to be quiet. He says, "I'm in charge. I'm a man. Stop saying stuff about me. Stop telling me that I'm not an American." He makes a speech that goes, I'm not a Polak. People from Poland are called Poles, but I'm an American and I belong to be here." So that's another aspect here too. So he's kind of saying that, look, you have this sort of notion of that the sisters have is that they are from the old South. They're the original Americans, and everyone else is just a foreigner. And he's saying, no, I'm just as original as you, and don't ever tell me I'm not an American. So it's a very tense dinner. But again, as I said before, later on, Stella starts arguing with Stanley about how he treats her sister, and he tells her like you were just like your sister until I made you different. Can we just go back to what it was? He talks about those colored lights, which means that we used to have sex all the time. He was very passionate, and then things were great before your sister got here. Can we just go back to what happens? Stella goes into labor. He takes Stella away. Okay, so that's a key part of the scene that acknowledges that Stella has similar things. Another key point I'm going to write down here that you need to know about is when Blanche uh, meet later, and then Mitch confronts. Oh, okay. And he confronts her about the lies, right? He says, "You've been lying to me all summer. You've been lying about everything that's happened. You're not young." He gets super angry, right? He's just tearing through the apartment. He turns on all the lights and he looks at her and he says, I knew you were older than you claim to be, right? I'm not an idiot. I know you're not 25, right? But why don't you tell me the truth, right? He's like, lies, lies, and lies. You've been nothing. You're not a virgin. You're not a woman of who will not have sex with outside of marriage. This is not who you are. You've been lying to me, right? And then Blanche kind of reveals her truth. Now, this term is used a lot when we talk about things in our common society, your truth. What do I mean when someone says they reveal their truth? What are we talking about? Someone says, I'm telling you my truth. Well, give up, yeah, but what does it mean when someone says, I'm going to here to tell you my truth? What do they actually mean? Their philosophy, their idea, their experiences, right? Because there is not your truth. Even though we use that term a lot in our society, this is my truth. That's not how truth works. There is the truth, right? Your truth is not your truth. Your truth is your experiences, your opinions, your viewpoint, but it's not the truth. So she's trying to tell you her truth, and she basically says that I've never lied. This is who I am. And she says something very interesting, right? When Sally goes, you lie all the time. He goes, you don't want reality. He goes, no, I don't want reality. I want magic. And when she says, I don't want reality, I want magic, she's talking about the idea is that I do not like the world I'm living in. I'm aware of the world that I'm living in. It is not a good world for me. And I'd rather live in the magical world where I am still an 18-year-old daughter of the South um, in an aristocratic society where my value is always protected. I am someone to be honored and respected, right? And she explains like this is why she had sex with all those men, right? That it was a self-esteem issue. That she got so depressed that she fell into the arms of a 17-year-old boy. That she went to a hotel and just had sex with random people over and over again until she got run out of town of Laurel. She admits to all this stuff, but she says, "This is what's happened to me. This is who I am. Um, this is what loneliness means, or the lack of self-esteem." So it's a very truth-telling thing. It's the first time Blanche has probably been truthful in the entire play, and it's designed to get us to see Blanche that she's not necessarily a bad person. She's talking about her experiences, and her experiences have taught her that her beauty and her worth is tied to her physical beauty. Who's that sound familiar to? That we just watched the movie about? Who? What other character from another piece of fiction was concerned about how their youth or the right? She's a lot like Sheba, right? Where it's almost like I know that my if I lose my beauty, I have nothing, right? That's all I'm good for. So I need to keep that going. I need to live in this fantasy world because the other world she lives in is not going to help her out, right? The other world she lives in, she has to marry a guy like Stanley, who might beat her or take care of her. So after she reveals her truth and says, you know what, this is who I am, this is how I feel, she asks Mitch to marry her, right? What does Mitch do? Does anyone remember? Well, this is interesting. He doesn't really leave her. Mitch says this. Says he won't marry her, but he will have sex with her. Michael, come to the office, please, Michael. Right? He says, you're not clean enough to bring home to my mother, and then proceeds to try to kiss her. And that's when Blanche explodes and gets upset and screams at him. So again, here's the thing that's interesting that I'm not going to write this down, but I want you to listen to this. And when you watch this video later, think about this. We have been upset with Blanche because Blanche is sexually promiscuous. She's lying. She's pretending to be someone she's not. And Blanche tells us that I choose this because I know that if I let people know who I am, I'll be punished for it. I know the rules of society and I choose to break them. Not from no, it's not really a noble cause she breaks them. She goes, but I break them and I know that if I break them, I will be punished, right? Or no one will accept me for what I am. Mitch, who is the nicest man in the group, he is the guy we're supposed to like. He's supposed to be the good human being. In that situation, when he's told the truth, and she says, "But please be with me. We can still build a life." He says, no, but you're too not clean enough to bring home to my mother, and tries to have sex with her. Now, if Mitch had said, look, you lied to me, I don't like liars, I'm done, and walked away, Mitch can say he made a character, he made a decision based on being uh, upstanding, noble man with certain beliefs, right? I mean, it's still problematic because he's always trying to grab at Blanche, and he's still willing to have sex with her out of marriage. But he could have at that time said, "I will not put up with your lies and walk away." What he does do is what reaffirms Blanche's worst beliefs. She said, "I won't marry you, but I will have sex with you." Is that the reason? Not the reason why Blanche lies to people, right? Because men will not see her as someone to love, but as someone to use. And even the nicest man in the play does the same thing that a guy like Stanley would do. So how does Blanche move forward in this world if what she did will always be held against her? Which again is silly because both Mitch and Stanley have implied about having sex before marriage, outside of marriage. Why aren't they punished the same way that Blanche is? Okay, so that's an interesting point. It gets us to understand why Blanche makes those decisions. She knows the rules. She knows being punished. She says, "Why am I? I'm not going to play the game." Right? However, Blanche is able to scare Mitchie. Mitch takes off and he leaves. And then the last two scenes, scene 10, is when Stanley comes back and he's drunk, and he is. This is the 1950s, so he doesn't stay for the pregnancy. He's going home. And he's drunk, and he kind of teases Blanche. He goes, "Look, let's be friends. You know, you're I've got a baby on the way and I'm happy, right?" And he goes, "And you've got your oil millionaire who's going to come pick you up and take you back." Blanche hasn't said that Chef Huntley is going to come get her and that she's going to go away with him, and that's it. And then Stanley goes, "Well, what about Mitch? Right? Mitch still loves you." And then she goes on a whole thing about the fact that Mitch had been rude and she doesn't out of the house, and that he crossed the line with her, and she was not going to deal with his rudeness, and therefore she bid him adieu. But Stanley knows she's lying, right? He saw Mitch and met him before on his way back to his house. He knows the story, and he gets so angry he starts to scream at her. He goes, "You lied to everybody. You haven't fooled me. You never fooled me." And then he goes off into the bedroom, gets changed, comes back, and then rapes Blanche, right? Now, we see a couple of things. Blanche is desperate. She's trying to get away. She tries to call Shep Huntley. We find out that basically she has no idea where Shep Huntley is, because she doesn't know his number. And she basically calls the operator and says, "I need you to find me a connection to Shep Huntley." She goes, "Okay, man, what about the address?" She doesn't know the address. Well, what part of the state is he in? I don't know, right? Which means in her head, the idea of Shep Huntley coming to save them was never going to happen. She probably did have him as a boyfriend before, but it doesn't mean that that was going to happen in the future, or that she was going to come back and save them. It's in her head. Stanley attacks her and rapes her, right? He says at the end of it, "We've had this date from the beginning." Now, a thing I want to address everyone's attention to, lots of times people see the play in this scene and they think Blanche is asked for the rape. Let me be clear. Blanche did not ask for the assault. She couldn't have. If you ask for a rape, it's no longer a rape. Number one. Number two, throughout the play, Blanche has clearly stated she has no attraction to Stanley whatsoever. She doesn't like Stanley. She did flirt with him in the beginning to get him to get what she wants, but we've established that Blanche, as a character, does this to get people to um, do things for her, right? That I need you to get me something, so I'll be nice to you. I'll flirt with you. So that's her tactic. Stanley was physical strength. Hers was flirting and a little bit of sexual tension and a little bit of just like being kind, right? Trying to be personable. Those are the things that she uses to get what she wants. So she never, ever, any time asks for the rape. In fact, in the scene, she breaks a bottle off and says, "Stay away from me." Now, I don't know about you, but if someone broke a bottle off and says, "Stay away from me," What are they telling you? Right. Yet Stanley says, "Oh, you want a little roughhouse?" Then overpowers her and then rapes her. So I know it's again. I've taught this book many years, and someone always says, "But she did this." I go, "She did nothing to ask to be assaulted. She's consistently shown that she's not attracted to Stanley, and Stanley has said he's not attracted to her. And also, Stanley is a married man with a child on the way. Why would he rape his sisters, or why would he rape his wife's sister if it wasn't what it's always about power? He has constantly shown her that he has power over her, right? I'm going to tell on you. I'm going to tell on you about your past. I'm going to make your sister choose me over you, right? When you play music, I'll smash the radio. When you tell me to clean up after myself, I'll smash the plates. You lie to me again and tell me in my own house that you've got all this power. Well, then I'm going to show you what power is. So it's all about him being dominant over her. So again, don't confuse it. Don't think it's she did something. She did nothing to do that. She was using the things she thought would help her get ahead in this world. And those things she was taught by people growing up that that's how a young woman should act. So that is her. So that's the problem. I'm not going to write this down because that's a little bit, but I want you to listen to that point. So in scene 10, he does rape her and then says, "We had this day from the beginning." By the end of the play, they're all being poker again. They're all playing again. Still, he's winning and he's being a jerk about it. And he's laughing and screaming and hollering. And Mitch is there, but he's really upset. Blanche has been raped. It's been a couple of weeks, and she's completely lost um, grip on reality. One of the key reasons why this happens is that Blanche has told Stella what happened, and Stella refuses to believe it. When speaking to Eunice, she says, "I couldn't believe that Stanley had done that and stayed living with him." So she made a choice, right? She chose to disbelieve her sister in order to keep her marriage with Stanley. And Eunice tells her, "You just got to keep on doing what you got to do. You got to keep on moving on." Which means Eunice probably also believes on some level, yes, Stanley did this or might have done this, but you can't have it both ways. You can't be married to this guy and have this guy as a rapist, right? So what's the choice you're going to make? Stella makes the choice, which also shows us that in the tug of war between the two people, who wins? Stanley wins, right? He's literally raped his sister's wife in his house, his wife's sister in his house, and got away with it. Beth is so unstable. She's hiding. She's delusional. She thinks he's going away on a trip. What we don't, she has no idea is that Stanley has called for her to be committed into a mental facility because of what's going on. And they show up to the house. She thinks it's Chef Huntley going to come and take her on a trip, but it's the matron, which is a nurse, who grabs her and holds her down. She's screaming and yelling. All the men are looking and they're feeling really bad because they all know something has happened. And as she's screaming, yelling, the matron's going to wants to give her some drugs to calm her down. The doctor comes in and says, no, let's do it some other way. And says, "Miss Dubois, let's go." She goes, "Thank you. I've always counted on the kindness of strangers." And she leaves with the doctor. Stella is crushed. She's crying and Stanley slowly unbuttons her dress and says, "It's going to be okay, baby. It's going to be okay." And the play ends. So Stella has chosen to stay with Stanley. Blanche is taken away. She is destroyed by this. She is gone. If she's not literally dead, she's figuratively dead because now she's going to be into a mental asylum, right? And remember, yes, there are things that are probably stressing her or wrong with her, but she's going to tell them, "I was raped," and they're going to tell her, "No, you weren't." So she's broken, right? She's going to a place that's not going to believe what has happened to her. Okay? So this has been the total destruction of her, and Stanley has won. He's not only raped her, he's gotten away with it, and his wife now will always stay with him. There is no change. She's going to accommodate, she's going to put aside what's happening, and it's just the destruction of everything. So, again, by the end of the play, we're supposed to like Blanche and feel empathy for her because now we've seen what has happened to her. And we even understand her choices, her behavior, her more sexual aggressive or why she chose to lie about who she was as a person. And a lot of it has to deal with the fact that if she does not do that, if she lies, she tells the truth, she will be judged by the society. Okay. Are there any questions about the end of the play? Yeah, Mitch ran away. So after Blanche, just let everyone know online. So Eric asked what happened with Mitch after the confrontation. So after in scene eight, scene nine, what happens is after he says you're not clean enough to bring home to my mother and tries to have sex with her, Blanche screams and says, if you don't get away from me, I'll scream fire. And Mitch runs away because like, oh, he gets overwhelmed and he leaves. Mitch was never wanted to rape her. Mitch was never going to rape her. He thought that maybe he could just force himself on her and she would just, well, why not? But when it actually led to the actual physical assault, and she goes, stay away from me, I'll scream, he runs away. While Stanley didn't care, right? He goes, oh, you want to be tough, huh? You want to fight me? I'll show what fighting is, because with Stanley, it's about power, right? I'm going to have power over you, and I'm not going to stop. So it Mitch and Stanley are different, but their upbringing in that world at that time still holds on to the idea that if a woman has lots of sex, she is a slut and therefore is up for more sex. And all those men will not marry her, but they will have sex with her, right? That sort of weird double standard. What's his job? He works at the garage with Stanley. Yeah. She doesn't, but again, I'm answering some questions from Eric. So it's like, did we Blanche just like lower class people? She would prefer to have a Shep Huntley come rescue her, but that life is gone. So she's looking for just comfort. She's looking for someone who's going to protect her and take care of her. And if she had married Mitch, Mitch would have been a pretty good husband, right? He would have protected her. He would have taken care of her. He would have tried to provide for her with her anything she wanted. That's what she needs, right? She's like, I just need to survive right now, because Belle is gone, right? That lifestyle she had is gone. She can't recapture it. And even the I know I'm always see Chef Huntley. That's a fantasy. If she felt that way, why didn't she go to him right away when everything went badly? She went to her sister. She didn't want the reality of this is what my life is. And Mitch seemed to have some of the traits and qualities that the men she grew up had. Therefore, of all the people she has to choose, she chooses him. This also plays into the idea of dependency upon men, right? What are her options? Right? She's a teacher. Teachers don't get paid that much, but she's also a teacher with a record of abusing, having sex with one of her students. Hard to get a job, right? Women aren't thought of as moving to areas of power or doing stuff. So it's just they don't have the option to do all these things. So therefore, uh, uh, Blanche is like so Blanche is sort of stuck. So she marries the best person available. The same way as Stella married the best man she was available to, right? Stella marries Stanley because out of the group, he's the toughest guy there. So that's more evidence of them being the same, right? Mhm. Yeah, but they're not living. But those businessmen would be living in different parts of would live in a part of New Orleans that would not be in the core. When they don't have the money, right? They're women of who hold themselves in high esteem of we're women of class, but they don't have access to money, right? When Barbara fell apart, Blanche could just sit there and watch it happen. She has no ability to do anything. She can't make it better. She can't alter it. She can't even tell those men stop having sex with all these women, and having kids. She's just stuck and she watches it fall apart, right? her value of that riches would only come from her rich family, right? That's the thing, right? An aristocracy only exists if your family is rich. So it's not just you're rich; it's your family name is means everything. So because the Dubois don't own that land, she's nothing, right? So she can't go into the wealthier part of the New South and demand those men pay attention to her. Why would they? Also, those men would be dating or going after women who are of other wealthy families who are younger and more attractive, right? So she can't crack that part. She doesn't know how to crack that part because she wouldn't even get to. She can't move there. She can't live there. Yeah, it's like that. Yeah, I mean, I think the idea of women as prizes for men, especially men of wealth, that still exists. It's absolutely still exists. Um, and in this situation, specifically when we're talking about uh, Blanche and Stella, right? It's far more desperate at that time, and women have far fewer options. Both Blanche and Stella got married when they're super young, right? Blanche got married when she was what her 18. She got married, right? And Stella got married and she's in her 20s. Right? Nowadays, women don't get married. Average women don't get married to the late 20s, early 30s because why would they? They want to go to school, get an education, have a career. Now I'll get married, right? That's more financial independence. That's more, I don't need you to pay for my stuff. But these women, think about it, they're so desperate that they need Stanley to take care of them. That scene, I think Luke using his assignment I'm editing, she Stella has to get $10 from her husband to have money because she has no job. Right? That's how bad they are. That's how dire it is for them on a level of if I don't have a man to protect me, I have nothing. I think on some level, Stella doesn't believe Blanche because what's she going to do if Stanley is a rapist? This Stanley goes to jail. Who's going to take care of her? Who's going to take care of her kid? What's going to happen to them? So it's a lot of other dynamics that go on within society that makes the choices of the characters things that we're saying that looks gross, but at the same time, it's understandable. It's the same reason why you might see a woman who's been physically abused by a man stay with her husband. And one of the reasons why they do it, financial. If if they have kids involved in it, I can't take myself and leave this man with kids. Where am I going to go? Right? Especially if they've been isolated and cut off from friends and family and told that they have no marketable skills, where would they go? So when people say, "Why don't you get up and leave?" I go, "If they had options, they would." Right? Blanche should have left months ago from this apartment. Where can she go? She goes to Stella because she has nobody else. She stays there because she has nobody else, and she clings to Mitch because he's the only person to help her out of the situation. If Mitch marries her, she can leave the situation, and go do something else. She has no family. They're all family. Most of the family is dead. The only person left is Stella, and they have no money. She might have. It might have been different, but I think part of the book is that this is going to happen. No, it doesn't. Right. Branch is crashing, and yes, so it is this thing where there's a change, and there's a change in some levels, but the way men and women interact within society doesn't really change, right? Or it's it's not as it's not a pronounced change, but Blanche still prefers the old South because at least there she's on a pedestal, right? She's still a trophy that can be valued, and she could, if someone is interested in marrying her, she'll have some form of protection. It is, but there is, but when we say old South stuff, we have to recognize the thing is that there is a transition from that society. If that old South society existed and thrived, she would not need to go to live in the New South. She wouldn't. She would stay where she was. But because the society is crumbling, she has to travel to this new world where there are new rules that she has to abide by, plus these undercurrent, these systemic uh, um, rules about gender that continue to happen throughout the world, right? So, I mean, it's also a very good thing that when we read our next book, we'll talk about. It's a nonfiction book about a woman who goes off to Western University, and she's a black woman. She deals with the fact that I've got to deal with all these things about being a black woman, a woman of who's biracial, uh, a woman, right? Uh, to doing school in a town that doesn't really have racialized people, plus the systemic racist and sexist society that exists within this world constantly that I have to deal with, right? That's just the undercurrent of whatever it is. So no matter how bad things are, I still have to deal with the fact that she talks about like as a woman when she went to the bars with her friend, if she did not give the men the attention they wanted, they would get very violent and threaten her because that's what women have to live with all the time. That they have this that men when feel entitled to a woman's body, and when they don't get what they want, they feel they can hurt them, right? So all the stuff you got to deal with in life, plus this underlying current that's slow to change, because we still think that women owe men something, and if we don't think that, again, this is a very long lecture, and I'll lecture for it. If you don't believe that, remember, I've taught this course with kids who are now older than you but younger, who still argue with me the fact that she asked for it. I'm like, why is she asking for anything? Because she led him on, right? That's underlying systemic sexism within our society. It tells men that if a woman is flirtatious, she must want it. If she dresses a certain way, she must want it from you. How do you survive? But at the same time, if you don't wear those things, why are you dressing like a boy? Right? You can't live in that world if you live in these two things where I can't structure like Blanche, you're a whore. Okay, Stanley, why'd you sleep with her then? Aren't you married? Well, she led me on. Why is she lead you on? Aren't you smart enough to stop it? If even she's flirting with you and saying sleep with me, aren't you smart enough, Stanley, to say no? Why don't you say no? Right? The expectation is she's supposed to do all these things, and he's supposed to. And if he gets hot and bothered, well, it's her fault. So think about those things. I mean, that's why I keep this book around. It's an older book, but I keep it around because it does deal with these issues. I think it's kind of reflective of, hey, have our values really changed? Have we uh, really addressed those issues? And again, I was shocked to see young people saying, "You actually think she's her fault?" Like they're arguing because in their minds, well, you asked for like, well, how do you ask for rape? I was shocked, and I had to say, and I had to point out, go, hey, in that scene, she breaks the ball off and says, stay away from her. How is she leading him on? But what happened in this scene later? But it doesn't matter. She said, stop. Like, like you could, and you could change your mind anytime you want. You could say, I like someone and don't like someone a day later. That's fine. But again, people got caught up in the, well, I expect women to behave in a certain way, and if they don't. And Regina, it's not uncommon to hear that happen all the time. When women are assaulted in society, the first response is, what did you do to make that man hit you? Versus, no, why did that man decide to hit you? Right? Why are we constantly blaming the victim for the actions of the attacker? Right? And this book kind of deals with it. That's why I've always liked this book. The book we're going to read kind of deals more with her experiences where when she is being accosted, people constantly attack her like, well, what? I didn't do anything. Okay? This was a very long thing. I'm going to stop this recording. Oh, hang on. People at home, are you